Hello sim racers and welcome back to the Fixed Setup Oval Racing Guide. Now, I just got back from an incredible weekend at Sonoma Raceway. If you were following me on Twitter or Instagram, you saw all the pictures and videos that I was posting driving this awesome little race car, a late 1970s Volkswagen Rabbit with some modifications, in the 24 Hours of Lemons event. We even live streamed it both days on my Twitch channel. It was absolutely fantastic content, huge turnout, and really cool to share that experience with everybody. We finished third in Class C, and 32nd overall out of about 136 entries. So honestly, a really solid result for a first-time effort for most of us. And again, to share it with the community in a live stream event over the course of 2 days was really cool. Now, I didn't do a whole lot of sim racing myself this week, but I heard and saw a number of horror stories from people who decided to do iRacing Super Speedway. There were some success stories, but it seemed more often than not a lot of crash compilation material. Tell me down in the comment section below how your week went. All right, week 4 on tap. Let's take a look at what we got. Before we begin, please take a moment to listen to my disclaimers. As with any skill-based activity, your mileage may vary with the information shared in this video. Sim racing requires individual effort in order to improve, and simply watching a video will not make you a better sim racer. Tips and tricks are not one size fits all, and you may need to adjust based on your skill level. These episodes are recorded before the new week begins, so the guided qualifying lap should not be viewed as the gold standard for the best lap time possible. Treat this information simply as a starting point for your own practice routine. Any analysis or commentary that I provide comes from my own experience on iRacing and may not always directly translate to what happens to you. I'm human, I make mistakes, and I can be wrong. And sometimes, iRacing likes to change things in the middle of the week. I try my best to provide the most accurate information ahead of time, but if I do make a mistake or leave something out, or iRacing changes something that invalidates something I've already said, you have my apology in advance. Up first, the ARCA Menard Series goes to Pocono Raceway for a 20-lap race that takes place at 5:10 p.m. in Sim. This is a big track. I don't like this track very much, and it takes a long time to get around, so be sure to give yourself extra time to practice at this track. The car is pretty snug overall, but you will lose rear traction coming out of turn 3 if you're pushing hard. You need to slow down more than you think for turn 2, also known as the tunnel turn, and I think that's where a lot of the crashes this week will occur. It's just an easy corner to get wrong. People will smack the wall coming out of it. That's probably where a lot of accidents will be taking place. I used a 14-to-1 steering ratio and dropped the brake bias to 62% for this qualifying run. My lap time was a 55.792. For the race, you'll probably want to consider moving the steering ratio up to 16:1 because of how snug the car is. I found that I was wearing the right front tire a bit more at 14:1 during my 5-lap practice run. Long lap times, there's only 3 turns, and it's a really wide racing surface. That means plenty of opportunities to pass people, but also to make mistakes that are really hard to recover from. This could be an unexpectedly good combo to farm iRating from, though. If you're patient enough, ARCA could be a relatively good play this week. The C-Class Street Stocks are at Stafford Motor Speedway for a 60-lap race that takes place at noon in Sim. Stafford is a tough little racetrack that is bottom lane dominant, but also has some room to run on the apron as well. Some people are going to try this, and while some might get it right, others might just get it wrong. Be aware of what's going on around you. You don't want to get tackled by somebody trying to run the apron who inevitably is going to push back up onto the track and stuff you in the wall. For this qualifying run, I used a 10:1 steering ratio and left the brake bias at its default value. My lap time was a 21.454. Protecting the bottom and rolling the center are the keys to success at Stafford. Be ready for dive bombs and people muscling their way to the bottom. It's a defensive driver's playground, but if you get sent into the upper groove, prepare to lose a lot of time and positions because there's just no speed up there. If you can cut the apron right, you'll have a big advantage on others, but just don't wreck people trying to do it, okay? The super late models go to Southern National Motorsports Park for a 75-lap race that takes place at noon in Sim. Okay, this combo is absolutely nuts. Between the high horsepower, low grip, and mega banking of the track, it's just out of control. You'll see how out of control it is on my qualifying run too. It really comes down to throttle pedal application. The smoother you could be, the better off you will be. I used a 10:1 steering ratio and 50.7 brake bias for a lap time of 14.292, and you'll see coming across the line, it wasn't even hooked up, so I know I can go faster. My excitement for this series was pretty high coming into it, but I've done one race in this series each of the last 2 weeks, one at Lanier, one at Martinsville, and they've both been awful experiences. A ton of wrecks, toxic voice chat, and just terrible racing quality overall. I don't know what it's going to take to make a better experience for people in this series. I'm really just curious to hear your thoughts, so tell me down in the comment section below what the super late model fixed setup series is missing and what it needs to get better. The NASCAR Legends series goes to Bristol Motor Speedway for a 150-lap race that takes place at 2:35 p.m. in Sim. Now, I had no clue what the fastest way around this track was for these cars, and it took me a good long while to figure it out, but I think I figured it out. Basically, Sail it off into the corners, let it ride around the middle, and then stand on it and hold on for dear life. Do not run the wall. It is slower. For my qualifying run, I used a 14-to-1 steering ratio and the default brake bias. My lap time was a 15.518. This car feels fairly neutral at Bristol, but it does have that similar tendency to oversteer on an entry if you're carrying just a little too much speed. It's very punishing, where without any real warning, it's just gonna snap. But I think that's been the case all season long. It was the same at North Wilkesboro and Atlanta as well. Running the wall isn't gonna net you much, but it might be the best line to run if you're trying to save tires. You can run the bottom, but the car really doesn't stick the whole way around, and you're going to abuse your tires trying to do it. To me, the middle lane seems to be the best way to get around this track. It really suits the car, at least in my opinion, better than the other two lanes, and it feels more comfortable there than anywhere else. C Fixed goes to Chicagoland Speedway for a 40-lap race that takes place at 1:10 p.m. I feel like C Fixed was just at Chicagoland not that long ago. I guess it was last season, and not much has changed since then, which I think is a good thing. It's wide open all the way around for qualifying if you can hold on. This is going to take some practice for you. If you're not comfortable with a loose race car, this could be tricky, especially in turns 3 and 4 where it is really challenging to go through there flat out. So if you can't get it right away, don't get discouraged. It's just going to take some practice. But if you want to set a fast time, you're going to have to do it flat out. For this qualifying run, I used a 14-to-1 steering ratio. You don't have to worry about brakes because you're not going to touch them. My lap time was a 31.080. Typically, I always roll my eyes when C Fixed goes to 1.5 miles because it's usually pack racing with a lot of blocking because of the draft and the value of being on the bottom of the racetrack. However, with the grip changes made to Chicagoland Speedway recently, you may have more freedom to run different lines to get out of dirty air. Last time I tried it, which was, I don't know, 2, 3, 4 weeks ago, whenever they made those grip changes, the top wasn't quite where it really should be grip-wise, and it didn't help out a ton, but perhaps they've tuned it and it'll be better this week. We'll just have to find out. If you're too loose under throttle on the bottom of turns 3 and 4, try moving up a lane to the middle. It might help you out a lot, but all in all, this is a great opportunity to really get some iRating and safety rating if you lost a ton at Iracing Super Speedway. Just be patient, go easy, save your tires. It's certainly probably going to be better for iRating and safety rating than Martinsville, right? B Fixed heads to Martinsville Speedway for 70 laps under the lights at 7:50 p.m. in sim. Okay, last season, B Fixed at Martinsville was one of, if not the worst driving experiences I've ever had in iRacing. It was universally panned by all the drivers that I did a B Fixed race with, and we're talking top split, some of the greatest, best, most skilled short track racers, oval racers on the service. Everybody hated how bad this thing drove. It wouldn't turn, it wouldn't stop. And this is at Martinsville, a track that requires a car to stop and turn really well. Unfortunately, in my testing, not much seems to have improved, so just know that going into this week. For this qualifying run, I used a 10-to-1 steering ratio and 59% brake bias. My lap time was a 20.467. Oh boy. If you did B Fixed at Martinsville last season, you already know what I'm talking about, and that qualifying lap probably looked very familiar. If you didn't run it last year, you're about to experience something that the majority of the drivers on the service made fun of, mocked, and just completely destroyed because of how ridiculous it was. If you have a knack for short track racing, you might enjoy this, but proceed with caution. For me, it's not very enjoyable. A Fixed also goes to Martinsville for a nighttime race. This one, 75 laps at 7:50 p.m. in sim. Thankfully, this car drives a bit better than B Fixed, and perhaps that's because it's on the low downforce package, or they just put a competent setup in it. I really don't know. Either way, throttle, pedal, discipline is key to success here at Martinsville in the Cup car. On this run, I used a 12-to-1 steering ratio, 65% brake bias, and ran a 20.019. A Fixed at Martinsville is typically a caution-filled carnage fest with toxic voice chat, so be prepared for that going into this one. Short track racing on iRacing usually brings out some terrible racecraft and awful attitudes. With the added challenge of low downforce and high horsepower, it won't be uncommon to see cars self-spinning on corner exits, so be prepared to evade those situations. Either they're going to spin it off to the inside wall, or they're going to overcorrect back up at the track right into your path. Treat the throttle pedal nicely, and you may find yourself doing well in these races. Or you may find yourself still getting destroyed by somebody who doesn't understand what the brake pedal is. Okay, no meme this week. NIS at Martinsville is a 250 lap race that takes place at 7:50 p.m. in sim. If you do these races this week, first of all, I applaud your bravery and commitment. I can't imagine that much is going to be more important than track position in this race, given the high likelihood of caution laps. Tires may matter if you get long runs, but again, that is less likely to occur. So just work on protecting the bottom, but don't be afraid to jump to the top side if everyone's trying to get to the bottom. You can roll that top side if done correctly and take advantage of the large stack ups with all the cars trying to ride that curbing down low. Also, with the high horsepower package, people may struggle to roll the bottom if there's a car to their outside. That's assuming they're, I don't know, a respectful driver. If they're down there, they can't get back to the throttle, and you're going to be able to roll around them because they don't want to push up the track into you. So that may be something to keep in mind as well. But if they're, you know, your average racer, they're going to try and get to the throttle too much, and you're just going to get doored up into the wall. So use your best judgment. 250 laps. You won't see me there. Good luck. And that'll do it for this week's Fixed Setup Oval Racing Guide. I hope you enjoyed it and found the information to be educational, but most importantly, helpful. If it was, please help me out by leaving a thumbs up on the video so more sim racers can find this type of content. Simply leaving a thumbs up helps more than you even realize. If you're new to the channel and want to make sure you never miss an episode, be sure to hit that big red subscribe button below the video right now and turn notifications on. Additionally, you can watch me and my iRacing adventures live on my Twitch channel, linked down in the description below. If you want to get in touch with me and stay up to date on the latest channel activity, the best way to do that is to follow me on Twitter, also linked down in the description below. Again, thank you so much for watching this video, and have a great week of racing.